you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I was looking at the title Disempowered, and I'm like, that's the exact opposite of like for Elevate, our motto is to empower individuals to overcome addiction.
Right.
And yours title is Disempowered, but that's also, it basically means the same thing because you were in a disempowered place where you've helped yourself and now others get to an empowered place, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. It was interesting. My best friend came up with the title, and we were sitting at a pub in Vail after skiing, watching her boyfriend is a big Titans fan.
Mm.
So we were watching the game with him. And I was going through this list of ideas and just struggling, figuring out the title. And I was like, what about this, this? And she's like, oh, just how about disempowered, but then cross out the DIS. And I was like, I think that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's clever and I like it a lot because that is the whole thing with addiction or overcoming an addiction, right?
yeah,
You got to empower yourself in order to be able to do it.
yes. And moving through that transition
Yeah.
is it's an individual process, but at the same time, I think so many people, we're all human. So
Mhm.
there are going to be things that are going to be in common.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is identifying and handling at like what happened with you, the trauma. Like it's
Yeah.
hard to feel empowered over something that you
Yeah.
don't have conscious knowledge of or
Mhm.
awareness of. Like it's kind of impossible to be powerful over something that is like hidden like that. And I
Yeah.
know trauma is like that.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I think a lot of people don't realize too is that if it's unresolved, it bleeds into every aspect of your life,
Yeah.
and it affects every aspect of your life in a really detrimental way. Your career, your relationships, your family, marriage, you know, partnerships, whatever. And until you start to pull that stuff out and resolve it and remove it, that's when things can really start to shift. And that's what I've learned. It's been an exciting, eye-opening learning process, to say the least.
Have you found it's almost like a can of worms? Like once you started finding that one trauma, you're like,
Yes.
oh, shoot, what about this? What about this? What about this? Ah.
I call it an onion.
Oh, yep.
Same
Yep.
thing,
Yep.
same idea. There's always another layer. We're
Yep.
spiritual, emotional onions, and you peel back one layer and you learn something, and then but there's another layer there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's been my journey and I joke about it. It's funny but not funny, but it's like I feel like I learned that lesson. I handle that trauma. I
Mhm.
am good. And then in some amount of time later, I'm like, wait, how am I in the exact same thing? It looked different. It appeared
Yeah,
different. I somehow thought it was different, but at the end of it, it's the same trauma. And it's like,
it's the same
dang
thing.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Another layer. There we go.
Yeah, I agree with you. And sometimes for me, I've learned that it's been kind of looking at it from a different perspective. Like
Mm.
sometimes I'll look at it from an emotional perspective, but I also need to take a look at it from a spiritual perspective. And looking at the same trauma from different angles I think, has been helpful for me as well.
Oh, I love that. So how would you look at that from a spiritual perspective? Like what are your tools on that?
So I'm a student, or I've been receiving treatment from a chiropractor who is trained in uh, Dr. Bradley Nelson's philosophy. I don't know if
Okay.
you've ever heard of it. And he works with kinesiology and muscle testing. And his
Mm-hmm.
idea is that, or philosophy is that, trauma can get trapped in different organs and different parts of our body, different meridians. And through muscle testing, we can ask the questions, yes or no questions. And then a practitioner can actually release that energy from the physical body. But that then affects us intuitionally and then on the spiritual side of things. So what I've noticed is that when he's done a big release, and this has to be done carefully and over a period of time, because you cannot just release all those traumas at once, because you'd be sick in bed with the flu kind of, thing.
Totally overwhelmed.
It has to
Yeah.
be done slowly. And what I noticed is that, and I'm going to shift your question a little bit to speak more to the intuitional, if that's okay.
Sure.
What I've noticed is that I can hear my intuition much better.
Mm.
So it's like if the volume was 0 to 10, maybe it was a 1 before, hearing that voice, and now it's an 8. And I cannot ignore it, even if I wanted to.
Yep. Yeah.
But it's shifted my whole guidance system. And where I am right now, and I was just talking with him the other day about this, is I'm now making decisions from that inner voice rather than the logical head thinking.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's our philosophy with Elevate, is you've got to handle, body, mind, and spirit. Like you can't handle any or tackle any situation, trauma, problem without it affecting all three of those. So all three of those really need to be in alignment in order to fully complete the cycle of, overcoming whatever it is. And I'm a huge believer, the body keeps a score. Like that really enlightened me to how much our bodies hold the trauma, how smart our bodies are, and how we do need to listen to our bodies. But I like how you said that's just the first part of it.
Right.
And here's how, once that's released, or once you become aware of that, now we got to tackle or confront, or just, have the tools to now lead it into the spiritual. So I guess my question for you is, I'm a very intuitive person, so I totally understand this philosophy, but how do you have the confidence that what you're hearing is correct? Like, was there a process where like you were saying, you used to be a 1 or a 2, but now you're at an 8, where you don't fight it? You're just like, oh, that's it. I got it. I know that's what it is. Because you kind of got to earn that trust with yourself on being right so many times when you have these gut feelings, more or less.
And by the way, that book, The Body Keeps Score, is that the correct title?
Yep.
I've read it twice, and I Audible twice, and I agree with you 100%. It's an incredible piece of work, and was an eye-opener for me too.
Yeah.
And
sad. Like it was hard for me to read, like the real life cases of kids and stuff. It was really sad, but it's also, we kind of need to know that stuff.
Exactly.
We can't not know it, even though it's hard for us to look at. We need to have that knowledge.
Yeah. And it also, it helped me with, and I'll come back to your question, but with CrossFit, I really jumped into that for a couple of years, and I felt that really helped me reconnect with my physicality. Yeah. Doing an intense WOD and it really made a difference. But back to answer your question, I've learned that when I didn't listen to that voice, there was always a terrible price to pay. And it put my life in danger and could have gotten me killed by now.
Wow.
Because I didn't listen to the voice that told me I shouldn't marry the man I was marrying, that I was settling, but my low self-esteem told me I couldn't do any better.
How old were you when that happened? Were you young or?
No, I was 35 when I got married. But I was marrying a narcissist and I didn't know it. Yeah. And I'm sure you're familiar with that. It's that gaslighting, manipulating, psychological abuse that eventually became physical, with one incident of physical abuse. And it just, I was so traumatized when I finally got out. I was driving through stop signs and red lights. I could barely function.
Wow.
So to come back to your question and answer it fully, I learned when I didn't listen to that voice, it could have gotten me killed. Yeah. So I knew I had to listen to the voice moving forward, but it was hard to hear.
Yeah. And how do you hear the voice? Is it like a voice in your head? Is it just an awareness? Is it a knowledge? Is it a realization? How does it come to you?
It's a gut.
Yep.
And usually it's a gut message, and usually it's like just one word or one sentence.
Mhm.
Recently, I've been launching, doing some coaching and kind of getting my website up to date and things like that. And like just this morning, I just got patience,
Mm.
patience.
Mhm.
And then I was I was in a relationship with a very nice gentleman um over the winter, and it wouldn't have been something that I would have looked for or tried to pick per se, but the message I got was that there's something here for both of you.
Mm.
There's something really important here for both of you. Um, so it can come across in a couple different ways,
Yeah.
but I do listen to it, even when I don't like it.
Yes. Same.
Yeah,
Same. And for all the same reasons. And, for me, it's usually like a tap, tap, tap. And if I ignore it, that tap, tap, tap gets a little harder. And if I
right,
ignore it,
right,
then
right.
it's like, and so I've
It's a
learned like
baseball bat.
we don't wait for like that third like warning. Like we're
Exactly,
gonna take action like immediately.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's a
I
lot
live off
less
my
painful.
intuition.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
totally
love
true.
that. And
Yeah.
so what tools did you discover, or what was the final break point for you, and how did you find how you were able to handle that trauma and ultimately leave this guy and begin this new life that you have because of it?
Yeah. It was really interesting. Many, many years ago, when I was in college, I was in a very healthy relationship with a man, and he just adored me. And he and I loved each other very much. So I'm so grateful for that relationship because I got to experience a healthy, loving relationship with a man. And I kept trying to recreate that in my marriage.
Hmm.
It just wasn't working. And I was struggling and struggling and trying to change me and do everything I could. At the same time, I'm being gaslighted and manipulated and controlled. And it was the intuition that got to me. I actually woke up one morning in December of 2011 with my intuition just screaming at me to get out, get
Hmm.
out, get out, get out. This is never going to be what you want it to be.
Hmm.
And, come to find out, really a marriage to a narcissist is not really a marriage.
Yeah.
They're just incapable of love. And there's really only one of you in the marriage.
Right.
So there's
And
that
yet
piece
they're
of it.
so controlling, you don't have a life left.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
control every aspect of your life, which is what makes it so hard for people to leave because they don't have
Exactly.
the means to do so anymore.
And I didn't really understand what was happening. And I think that's what a lot of
Yeah.
people who are looking out from the inside don't understand. You know, it's so manipulative and so controlling, like you said, and you're being so gaslighted. You have so many things coming at you. It's all at once. You don't understand what's happening.
Hmm.
So I asked for help. And fortunately, I asked my parents for help and they took me in. They did not understand, nor did I really explain to them about the narcissism and the incident of abuse. Um, I hid that from my father, and this is probably an issue for women out there because
Absolutely.
my dad was an Army veteran, and I know what he would have done.
Yep.
And my ex would have been on the losing side of that.
Yep. And then, but you being like smart goes, okay, that would be cool, but then what's going to happen to my dad because of that?
Exactly.
And so you want to protect.
Right.
And so by doing that, you don't disclose what's happening. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think they were a little confused. I think they figured it out.
Yeah.
Um, but then, I had this realization too that if I didn't take a long, hard look at myself and I had that surrender point and just say, I've got to take a look and figure out why this has happened to me. Because if it happens again, I might not survive it the second time.
Yeah.
I was lucky to get out of that. And I was willing to do whatever it took to make sure I never experience that again.
Yeah.
So I went to work with coaches and therapists.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I sought out other mentors and other means of healing, things like acupuncture, Reiki.
Mm,
I'm a student of, and you may know of Commander Mark Devine, who's a retired Navy SEAL. He has a personal development program, and
mm,
he's in San Diego. And it's for civilians, but he kind of mixes together mental toughness, emotional resiliency with somatic work, breath work, and has this really comprehensive, wonderful program, which I have benefited from enormously.
yeah.
Um, and and now I've moved into working with one of Dr. Bradley Nelson's practitioners, and that has been extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and anybody who's been through something and then in turn start helping other people, you almost get as much out of helping others who were like you than you did
absolutely.
off of helping yourself. Like there's
Yeah.
something so rewarding to see that light bulb or that empowerment or that you just change in people because you understand their suffering like
Mhm.
most would not.
Exactly. Exactly. One of the people who I wrote about and met personally is U.S. Army veteran named Josh Montz. He has an absolute incredible story. He wrote Beauty of the Darker Soul.
Mm,
Josh is a West Point grad who was
okay.
served in Iraq. He, as a second lieutenant leading a platoon, and he was struck by a sniper bullet in the femoral artery.
Mm,
He bled out and died.
mm,
He flatlined for 15 minutes. I mean, his story is unbelievable, and he made it back.
wow.
And he now speaks to veterans about post-traumatic stress. He got to the point where, and this is his public conversation,
Mm,
um, that he didn't want to live anymore.
mm.
And one of the things that he talks about is his own healing process. And now he works with veterans and speaks all over the world. And his biggest point is that it's the human connection that we make
Yep.
that helps us to heal. Just like what you were saying,
Mhm.
when we make that connection with another human being and we truly understand their trauma and what they have been through, that's when a powerful piece of the healing process.
Yeah. And it's so sad because you have that knowledge, I have that knowledge. I was talking to Greg Glassman who invented CrossFit,
Yeah,
and it's the connection. And that's why we love CrossFit. It's the
yeah.
connection. And that was like probably one of the single most detrimental things about the pandemic was that removal from connection, the
Oh gosh,
isolation
yeah.
and all that. Like we've seen such a huge decline in mental health. I
Yes,
think, especially for people, young people who were, in their pivotal growing stages, that was their
absolutely.
reality. And it was just that disconnection from community and people and connection that really does the damage. So I 100% believe that is the underlying of a lot of what we're seeing in the world
I,
today.
I agree with you 100%. So many people are so isolated, and we're seeing now, even though COVID is past, it's like they've lost the ability to reconnect.
Yeah.
And or they expect now the connection to be digital, on social media. And it's like, that's not a real connection.
No, because
And
anybody
to
could
your,
be anything behind that keyboard. Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And to come back to the CrossFit thing. So, here I am dealing with this trauma, getting reconnected with my body, but
Mhm.
also, that benefit of being in that box and that community.
Yeah.
And you know how it is, when the really strong athletes finish a WOD first, they don't walk away. They stand there and they cheer you on.
Yeah. They don't go clean up their equipment and they're out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's
Yeah.
that sense of community and that encouragement and that support. So
Yeah.
somebody for me, who's coming out of this marriage and traumatized, that was huge for me.
Yeah.
That
And
was a
that is by definition empowerment. dropping
Yeah,
those heavy weights, having people there for you, feeling good about yourself, feeling like you did something that you couldn't do
yeah,
before, or a
yeah,
little faster, a little stronger, a little whatever it is.
yeah,
Dying in the trenches with everybody else, like for really
exactly.
hard wads and hero
Laying on the
wads, and then
mat.
doing it together and high-fiving. There's nothing
Exactly.
better than that feeling.
Exactly. I like to say there's nothing more satisfying than holding an Olympic lifting bar with weight over your head and just letting it slam on the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah, I coach up at the center, my rehab once a week. And like I see the people like all timidly, and I'm like, this isn't Planet Fitness.
Right.
Throw that thing down,
Slam
make
it.
some noise, scream. Like this
Exactly.
is the empowerment of lifting heavy weight. Enjoy it. And to
Yeah.
see people like, they're a little timid at first, and then they like enjoy it. They're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that was amazing. I'm like, I know.
It feels good. They let their badass out.
Yeah, yeah. The badass they didn't even know was in there because of their
Exactly.
trauma and their low self-esteem and their, and exposure, like all of it,
And
to give them that
conditioning.
opportunity to find it. It's beautiful to witness.
It is. And I remember the first time I walked into the box, I was, when I was watching people do that, and I was that timid person, like,
Mhm.
oh my God, look at that. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do that. And then, after onboarding, I was doing it.
I
It
love
was
that.
great.
I love that. Yeah, nothing like it. It's so amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very unique.
Great. And so and so like I love this Navy SEAL, like you did a lot of work down there because I've toyed around with going down to one of these camps before because I think I would absolutely love it. But I love that it seems like it's the exact same thing, right? You got your physical, you're
Mhm.
suffering in the trenches with your people. It's a mental
Yep.
mindset because it's not for the weak. You've got to like put yourself through fear and overcoming a lot of things that you've never gone through, and then the spiritual surrender and trust aspect. So
Right.
it's such a beautiful way to build all these areas at
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah. Mark actually has a layout, if you will, of
Mhm.
the philosophy. And it actually originates from Ken Wilber, who's a well-known philosopher. And Ken has given Mark his blessing. I've heard it on a podcast. So he's divides it up into the physical mountain, the mental, emotional, intuitional, and then spiritual, which he calls kokoro. And kokoro is the Japanese word for the merging of the heart and the mind.
Mm.
So people who live at the kokoro level, you would say, are, Mother Teresa, Gandhi. They've really achieved that level of global service.
Mhm.
And that's what we all want to strive for. Most of us are probably not going to get there, but if we have more people striving for that, the world's certainly going to be a better place. And then also, Kokoro, using that word, stays away from religion.
Mhm.
It just it kind of flattens that argument. So it's a different approach. But
Well,
his
and I like that. And that's similar approach that we have at Elevate, because if you pigeonhole, like you must subscribe to this particular religion in order
right,
to gain this, you're losing half the people. Whereas if you can be open to whatever your interpretation,
yeah,
philosophy, religious belief, non-belief, it doesn't matter.
mhm.
It's up for you to decide. Then you can help anybody and everybody.
Yeah, yeah, like I agree with you 100%. It just opens a lot of different doors.
Yeah.
And I've been to 6 of his in-person events.
Wow.
And yeah, and they always include um, a physical fitness challenge. I mean, we actually went, a lot of kind of spot drills with, 100 air squats, things like that. But I actually got to do what's called beach games.
Ooh,
And
fun.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. Now, as an East Coast girl, I grew up literally on the ocean. So when we were kids, we were little surf rats. So being in the ocean that's comfort zone for me, but it's not comfort zone for everybody. And they
True.
actually take
The
us
ocean
out.
scares the crap out of a lot of people.
It does. It does. And,
Yeah,
and, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
true.
So,
It is scary. Like I don't mess with it. I mean, I'll go in it, but I'm very mindful of how powerful that
it, it, and that's
entity
smart.
is.
That's smart because that keeps you safe.
Yes.
And then he has you've probably seen it in movies and on TV when the Navy SEAL candidates, their arms are locked and the waves are crashing over their head and they have to
Yeah.
stand up and the waves are crashing. They lie down and the waves are crashing. So we did that.
Oh.
And it was an absolute blast.
I love that that's your takeaway. For some people, that would be like death. Like they think they're going to drown. They think like,
Exactly.
the fears just like take over.
And it was so interesting because that's what happened to a lot of people. And I looked around and everybody like was in agony and fear. And I was like, wait, what? And I
Yeah.
immediately stepped into that leadership helping role
Yeah.
because I was so comfortable in that environment
Yeah.
and I knew I could help. So I started, without even realizing, I started leading my boat crew. And I felt like 6-year-old little Ellen again,
Oh,
because that's where when I was a happy 6-year-old girl playing in the surf all summer long. So
yeah.
for me, that was comfort zone. For those folks, it was not. And it was so interesting because afterwards, a couple months later, I was talking to my cousin who I grew up with on the beach, and I was telling her about this exercise. And she looked at me and said, wait, people think that's hard? And I was like, Allison, not everybody grew up on the beach like we did. And she was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. But what I really got from that was because I went into that little girl mode.
Mhm.
I just felt like I was this tall, running around in my bikini covered in sand kind of little girl.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Mark says is when you do one of his intense physical events, is that you meet yourself for the very first time.
Mm.
And the first time I heard that, I was like, what on earth does that mean?
Yeah.
And then after going through this event, and this was only like an hour and a half event, this was not an all day thing. This
Mm.
was just a tiny little taste.
Yeah.
But even that hour and a half, after I had time to process it, I realized I met 6-year-old little Ellen.
Yeah.
I remembered who she was and how awesome she was as a little girl before her self-esteem was destroyed.
Yep.
So I got to meet Ellen again, 6-year-old Ellen. So
That's
that was,
beautiful. That's what I was thinking. You got to meet the girl before the trauma, before,
yeah.
life and things changed her. Was that the case with everyone, or for other people meeting their younger version, was that post trauma, like that fearful, different side? Did people experience that in a different way?
You know, I didn't I haven't really dived into that with other people. I think my guess, and this is
Mm.
just a guess, for them because they were not comfortable in that environment,
Mhm.
maybe it was just about overcoming fear and facing being uncomfortable. The
Yeah.
water was pretty cold too.
Oh, yeah.
It was maybe 60 degrees.
Yeah.
For a New England girl, that's a bathtub.
That's what I was about to say. That's nothing. That's San Diego
Exactly.
water. Like, are you kidding? That's nothing.
Well, we had some people from Texas, from
Oh,
Houston, Galveston, and they were just
oh
shivering
yeah.
cold. Their bodies just weren't equipped for it.
Yeah, oh
So
yeah.
I think everybody's takeaway is going to be as unique as they are and their journey.
I love that. And it's all about just being willing to put yourself through something like that, knowing that you're going to get something amazing out of it. And like you said, whatever it is, whether it's
Right.
an overcoming a fear, it's a reliving that free child, or maybe it's like motivation to be like, I don't want to be this way anymore, so I'm gonna
Right.
like go harder. So I
Right.
love that it's a unique experience for whoever's going into it, and be open to whatever it is.
Yeah. It- And know that you're in a safe place
Mm.
because you have a boat crew, your boat crew is supporting you, and you are supporting your boat crew, and then there is a leader. And the leader is, one of the coaches who's likely a retired Navy SEAL. They're standing on the beach, nice and dry, but but but
That
they've
would make
also
me feel safe though. I'd be like, whatever happens, I know these guys got my back. So I would
exactly
definitely go in with just full trust, because I would know ultimately, kind of like a roller coaster. I know ultimately I'm going to be totally fine. So why be
right,
fearful?
right.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
these guys are the best in the world at what they do.
Yeah.
Just the opportunity alone to learn from them was massive to me.
Yeah.
And I got huge lessons and huge healing events or experiences out of the going through those experiences. Yeah.
Which in turn is the definition of empowerment, right?
Yeah.
Because we overcome, we conquered, we learned, and
Yep.
now we feel way more empowered, when before there was that feeling, especially, you know, in your narcissistic relationship, of complete powerlessness.
Absolutely. You know, I like to say that I'm a survivor
Mhm.
who learned how to heal and has now moved into thriving.
Mm.
And now my job is to help others understand the healing process, what that means for them, to show them that they can rebuild their life on their terms and really, really thrive again.
Yeah. Do you ever run into, and that's a beautiful purpose. Like, that's what it's all about, is us giving back to people who are like us and seeing those wins. But do you ever find people who they dabble in it, but that uncomfortable hell is easier for them than that unfamiliar, it could be amazing, unknownness?
Right. I see a lot of people who are just so frightened
Yeah.
and so deep in their trauma that they are absolutely unwilling to go there.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
would rather stay in the pain that they know
Yep.
than reach out for something more. You
Yep.
know, in my case, I believed that if I stayed in that trauma, the events would repeat and I would die.
Yeah.
It was
And
really
it took that for you to leave. Like, it needed
exactly.
to be that severe.
I believed my life was in danger.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do anything about it, it wasn't just leaving the relationship, but I knew these events were going to happen again.
Mhm.
And that it was life or death for me. I
Yeah.
really believed that. And I think a lot of people won't take that step until it gets to that point. So in my
100%.
situation, it wasn't necessarily a drug or alcohol surrender point, but it was a self-esteem, self-worth. I absolutely believe my life was in danger, and I didn't understand how, to what depth that it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's very confusing because, again, it's not something people talk about. It's not like common knowledge. It's not like, you know, there's levels of shame and embarrassment, and then fearfulness of, if people did know, what would that mean? So it takes a lot of confront to be able to deal with something like that, because it's almost like a suffer in silence kind of situation. Uh-oh. We froze. Is it our side? Hello? Can you click on our internet? Do you see if we have internet? Uh-oh, she's out. Are we sure it's her? Let's check our internet though. Let's remember this lighting, April. It's really good, because remember how before I was saying you couldn't see my eyelashes? I see my eyelashes really well with the lighting like this. When it's straight at my face, it like oh, yeah, remember? No, it's on. We're connected. Oh, there she is.
I am so sorry. I just got the blue screen of death.
Mm.
It just went
Not the
blank.
blue screen of death. How are you back on already?
I just had to reboot.
Oh, that was a fast reboot, I have to say. Not like the old days of blue screen of death meant you're done.
Right. I don't. I
Oh
am
my God. Do you
so
remember that,
sorry.
having to back stuff up? And if you didn't back it up, your first
I
thought is, oh
know.
my God, when was the last time I backed up? Oh
I
my
know.
gosh.
I may have left, I confess, I may have left a few windows, too many windows open without realizing. So, oh
Oh,
my
learn, we
gosh.
learn.
But I'm back. So yeah.
Awesome. Glad you're back. And we'll just edit
Oh,
that.
that I figured you could. So
Yeah. We have those capabilities. That's why, well, it's not why I don't do live, but we're lucky we can edit whatever we need to.
sure.
Yeah. And where were we? We were
Surrender point and the motivation
surrender.
to get uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I did have a question for you.
Sure.
I've noticed that recently, and I don't know if it's just because we're becoming more aware as a society, or it's more common than we think. I'm hearing the word narcissism a lot. It feels
Yeah.
like it's becoming more and more prevalent, more and more
Yeah.
common, more and more. And so part of me is like, okay, are we overusing the word, or is there really this many people that are this messed up and this many people that are stuck in these relationships with these types of people?
Right. A couple thoughts on that, and I've been hearing the same thing. And the clinicians will tell you that it actually is a very small percentage of the
Yeah.
population. However, I know that they're starting to talk about it as a spectrum.
Oh, okay.
And then the other conversation that I've been hearing about is that there are other personality disorders that are not that different.
Yeah.
And we just may not have named them, or maybe we don't have the clinical names. And I think we're kind of lumping them all into that bucket.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a couple different things going on here, and I think it's a learning curve for our society. But I think the other thing to remember too is that the origin of narcissism is childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And, so much of our conversation has been around trauma, and, the body remembers. And I think the key to this is to address the trauma and the isolation that people are feeling.
Mm. And we're speaking not just on the person affected by a narcissist, but the narcissist themselves.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think they have that ability to see that there's maybe something wrong with them? Do you think that's like, can they recover basically?
right,
I mean, I guess they could if they were able
yeah.
to take a good look and look at the trauma and overcome it. It's just, would they even get to that point to think there was anything wrong with them?
I'm trying to remember the name. There's a very well-known psychiatrist, so clinically credentialed psychiatrist. She's on YouTube and she talks about narcissism all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize, her name is escaping me. And from what I've heard her say, most of the time they don't
Yeah.
recognize their own behavior. And her answer has been no, they really, most of the time, cannot recover.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's this certain, like they're the victim kind of thing, right? Like
Yes,
this is being done to them. I mean, they're not doing
right,
it because they're a bad person. It's because stuff's being done to them and they're just reacting.
right, right. And the world is not serving them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. I've noticed that's being thrown around a lot. Like on our helpline, I'm finding that,
yeah.
sorry, we're going a little off topic here, but
That's okay.
schizophrenia is now suddenly like become very,
Wow.
very common. And again,
Yeah,
to me, this is one of those very like I'm sure the doctors will say very rare instances, very low percentage. But now, like everything, like narcissism is being grouped in, and a lot of people are being told, "Oh, you're just schizophrenic. Here's your medication. Here's your things. Here's your
right,
that."
right, right,
It's almost just this blanket of it could be a myriad of different things.
right, right. It's Dr. Romani, I think is her name.
Okay.
So it did come to me. I
Good job.
think that's it. Dr. Romani. I don't remember her first name.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing I've learned too, and I've learned this also from listening to Josh Mons and his story in post-traumatic stress. And I've heard clinicians talk about this in other podcasts. Post-traumatic stress and psychosis are two very different things. You know, somebody who truly is schizophrenic, somebody who has a real specific disorder in their brain, that is extremely serious. But so much of the mental health community is treating trauma and post-traumatic stress as if it's psychosis, but it's not psychosis.
Yeah.
It's the result of a real event that happened. It's not a chemical imbalance in the brain.
Yeah.
You know, something happened
Yeah.
that was overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
talk about that a lot with, obviously with addiction, because what I've realized through the last few years and talking to many people, including people like you, is everybody has childhood trauma in one form or
absolutely.
another. It's just
Mhm.
how we as children learn to adapt to that. And for some people, it ends up being drugs and alcohol. That's how they're able to cope. That is their
Right.
thing. Other people end up like in the Navy SEALs or things like that. They're like, I'm not going to be the victim of this. And they
They
switch it
push.
to being a very proactive, like, I am not a victim kind of thing. So
Right.
I think everybody struggles from childhood trauma. It's just how do we adapt and change, and does it affect our whole lives, or are we able to recognize it and move on from it?
Yeah. And I think it depends on everybody's individual situation. You know,
Sure.
I was so fortunate, you know, because my childhood trauma was being diagnosed at age 6 as being dyslexic and written off by the education community. I'm completely
Right.
written off. My parents were told that they should focus on finding a husband to take care of me because I would never go on to college and would never contribute to society. Yeah, that
Dyslexia, like that's
yeah,
crazy.
that conversation really happened.
Wow.
And my parents just said no,
Good.
no, and not a lot of parents did that.
No, no, they trust the professionals. And if the professionals, the doctors, the
Right,
teachers are telling them something, they're like, that is gold. I'm going to listen to
right.
that.
So I'm the lucky one. So I think, you know, how we come out of this trauma depends on that individual circumstance, depends on the parents, depends on, you know, their home life. You know, if they're already in poverty and they have something like this happen, the odds are really against them.
Good.
You know, I had the parents who were committed and there. I had a stable household, you know, lived in an affluent community. I had all the winning check marks.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the reasons why I feel a sense of responsibility to share my story, because
Mm,
I'm the lucky one.
yeah. I wouldn't say it's luck. I think,
Or
you took
destiny.
advantage of the things that were afforded to you, because
Right.
some people would not.
Well, yes. And also as a child, I mean, my parents were pretty extraordinary people. My
Mm.
mother was the highest ranked and highest paid woman in Volkswagen in the late 1950s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty unheard of. And that's
That,
how she
yeah,
met.
especially at that era. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way. Yeah.
And so that's how she met my dad. My dad was an Army veteran. And so hence my reason for being comfortable training with Navy SEALs. But he had a lot of their philosophy already. So in first and second grade, he's teaching me about micro goals. And that's a tool that the Navy SEALs use in their training and getting
Yeah.
through butts, you know, one burpee at a time,
Yep.
one WOD at a time,
Yep.
you know, and I know you know this just from CrossFit.
Mm.
Um, so I definitely feel like I had some advantages, um, which gave me a huge, huge edge. And I'm one of those people, you know, because my dad had that outdoor training military background. He sent me on Outward Bound at 15.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. And at 17, I got to get certified to scuba dive. So he was always giving me those challenges that were teaching me to persevere. And I was already as a child, un- I was comfortable with getting uncomfortable,
Yeah.
playing in the cold ocean.
Oh,
There were
yeah.
times they would drag us out of the ocean. My lips would be blue and I'd be shaking and I'd say, I'm not cold. I'm fine.
Yeah, 5 more minutes. Come on.
Exactly. What do you mean we have to go home?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
So
that totally makes sense why you're so comfortable with the physical, where a lot of people would be like, that's hard, that's strenuous, that's too much. It's like it's a
exactly.
comfortable place for you, that physical aspect.
It's my normal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still take on challenges. You know, one of the things I've been learning, I don't know if you're familiar, I took on the challenge, and yes, I did question the wisdom of this several times. Um, so I'm a big skier. It's why I live here in Colorado.
Okay.
And I am learning, I've just converted over to learning what's called telemark skiing.
Mm,
And telemark skiing is downhill. It's not cross country. I mean, you can go across flats, and the heel is actually free. So
okay.
each turn that you make, instead of a side to side turn, is actually a lunge turn.
Oh, wow.
And it's very, very difficult to learn. It takes 3 years at least to convert over. And it is probably the biggest technical challenge that I've ever taken on.
3 years. That's
Three,
crazy.
well,
Yeah.
3 ski seasons. So,
Yeah.
and I did it in a class at Breckenridge, a club, instructor led, 20 days on snow, learning with these guys before I went out on my own.
Wow.
And you know how like learning to properly do a snatch.
Yeah.
Um, it's technical in that context.
Yes.
But of course, we're talking about skiing. So it takes constant repetition, adjustment, and you're just doing it over and over and over again.
Well, and especially because you successfully learned another way. So to mentally
Exactly.
put yourself into something where you know you could just do this and be successful, but you've got to keep doing this where it's going to take all those reps.
Yeah. And
Mm.
I spent a lot of time on Sunday mornings were kind of my time to myself. I go to Keystone in the mornings, get first chair, and I would just get out on the beginner trails and I would just drill and drill, do everything the instructors had done with us the day before. And I feel like the end of this past season, I closed out Vail with a bunch of friends, and I feel like I finally hit it.
Oh, wow.
Finally got it, and that's the end of 3 seasons. So right on track, but it has been an enormous challenge. But I find myself, now that I'm so used to being in that challenge, it's like, okay, when I now I got that, I'm going to work on mastering that probably for the rest of my life. But now I'm
Yeah.
starting to think, okay, what's my next challenge?
Ah, good for you. And that takes a lot of dedication. Like for me, I tell my clients all the time, like, when you're doing a squat clean, there can be this spot of weightlessness, which is crazy
Yes.
because you have so much weight on the bar.
Yeah.
If you can get under it fast enough,
Right.
it's
Right.
literally weightless. But in my 13 years, I've experienced that maybe twice.
Right.
It's like this unicorn. But
Yeah.
again, I know if I were to only work on that move every day for, 3 years, I would absolutely feel it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it takes so much dedication, perseverance, and drilling over and over and over again to
Yeah.
achieve these things.
It does. It does. And another thing that it almost sounds like you're talking about, and I've experienced, and they talk, professional athletes talk about this, and Mark and the Navy SEALs talk about this, about finding that flow state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I
And
love that.
yeah, that's a fascinating place to be. The first time I experienced that was on skis, and all thought process just shut down, and I was just in a total state of pure being.
Yeah.
And when I came out of that, I just was stunned, and I said, "What just happened to me?"
Yeah. And
It
then
was
you spend the rest of your time chasing that. Like, how do I
exactly,
get that again?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's the frustrating part. And that's a piece I'm trying to learn now, is how do I,
Mm,
and I know the SEALs do this on demand. And this is what I'm trying to learn, is how to bring myself or put myself into flow state on demand.
mhm, mhm.
And I think I've done it again on skis at the end of this past season. Um, that just seems to be the place where I'm able to find it.
Yeah.
Um, but I know that it's available in other places because other athletes experience it as well.
See, and that's my question. So you brought up athletes. So do you believe that in order to achieve like flow state, there has to be a physical component involved to get there? It can't just be like a mental creation, like there has to be some sort of physical activity.
My understanding is that would make sense. That's the case. I think otherwise we'd probably put it into a meditative
Hmm.
state where we're changing the brain waves, kind of like how the monks are able to do. But
Right.
I think there's a physicality to flow state that is there, especially, a lot of athletes will call it the zone.
Hmm.
You see that in baseball players and football players and
Basketball players, like
basketball.
I've witnessed, because I'm a huge Warriors fan. Like when you
Ah,
see one of those players, like Steph Curry, Clay Thompson, when he had a 60-point quarter, when you see them in that flow state and you're
yeah,
witnessing it, and like everything they touch goes right, everything they
yeah,
do is right, everybody recognizes it, and they're
yeah.
trying to help them because they're like, wow, this is like a witness. It's so beautiful to observe.
It is. And it's so, when you know what to look for,
Mm.
it's really obvious.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, it's really obvious. And it's so exciting, especially if it's an athlete that you've coached. I imagine that must be so exciting to see them in that place.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm able to see such progress straight from detox. I mean, they graduate 67 days later and they're already deadlifting, power cleaning, like they're doing all the
That's
things.
awesome.
And I know it warms my heart. I'm like, yes. And just seeing them feel empowered. It's just like your book.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why we put it into the well, a lot of it, it's community, but it's also empowerment for people who are struggling with low self-esteem.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
obviously, if you're in rehab, you're not in an empowered place physically, mentally, or spiritually. So to be
Right.
able to sort of, in my mind, fast get them to that place of empowerment, I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like physical exertion is like key.
Absolutely. And it, like we were talking about before, it reconnects the body to the emotional and the mental. I
Yeah.
felt like my head was here and my body was down here when I was traumatized. I just felt I felt kind of disembodied. I don't know how else to explain it.
Disassociated.
That's a
Absolutely.
better word. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
disembodied, probably not a great word. But I get what yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I remember I hit um back squat to a box, my 1 round max. I was probably a year into CrossFit. I walked into the gym and off the rack, I started out being able to do 80 pounds,
Mm,
1 rep max.
yeah.
A year later, and I had my friends count my weights because I could not believe it.
Yep.
I was at 155.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cried.
Yeah. And in the long run, 1 year is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I did. I absolutely cried. I was just totally shocked that
Yeah.
I could make that much progress. And I was 45
Yeah.
at the time. And I think this is a message that's important for people to hear also. I'm now 56 and I'm training and, telemark skiing and, I'm going after it. I'm not letting age stop me. I think these ideas that we have that you're done at 29, we have got to get rid of those ideas.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And
Yeah.
I'm 54, so I'm, right about
Oh,
the
we're
same age.
we're in the
And
same
it's
boat.
astonishing to me how many people are like, "Oh, you're so lucky, you're this, you're that, and I got my
Right.
hip and this and that." And I'm like, "Dude, it's not luck. It's a lot of work, but we can
Right.
all have that physical well-being. Like stop phoning it in at 50. You could live another 50 years. If you're already hanging it up because of this old injury or this condition or this thing,
Right.
how is your next 50 years going to be? Like I'm fighting this thing all the way to the end, but I'm also like you where I want to say we don't have to have physical limitations based off of our perceived age, which it's a state of mind. I mean,
It
obviously we've
is.
slowed down. Like there's a master's division for a reason because, we
Right.
can't physically lift as heavy as those young kids, but we can still do the stuff and still be peak condition at our age.
I agree with you 100%. And this is where my dad was a great example. Now, he passed away at 80, but he was in the gym 3 days before he died.
Wow.
Yeah. He was
Wow.
lifting weights. So you can see where I get it from.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. You know, he had both knees replaced. He had a pacemaker defibrillator in his chest. And you know what he did? He worked with his cardiologist. And he
Yeah.
said, what exercise can I do? You know, what is going to be appropriate for me? And he said, I don't want you doing a lot of cardio, but here's what you could do. Go walk in the pool. The pool, the walking pool.
Yeah.
And that was great for him. Now he did some weights. He would do the bicycle, the recumbent bicycle. So he asked questions. He made the effort. He figured out what would work with him, despite being 75 years old with two knees replaced and a pacemaker defibrillator in his chest.
Yeah.
And he had a great quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah. But it takes work, right? Like, so
Yeah.
again, I think this might be our biggest barrier in society is that people, okay, I worked out once. Where's my abs? Like, I don't want to keep doing that. Like, I didn't see my instant results. That's a lot of work. It hurts and I'm
Right.
tired,
Right.
but it's like, exactly. But you got to keep going. And at some point,
Yeah.
it's going to quit hurting and it's going to start feeling good. You're going
Yeah.
to start remembering the good things, not the bad things. And that's how you build the habit. But so many people aren't willing to put in the time, the reps, the things
Yeah.
to see the benefits out of it.
I agree with you 100%. It takes an absolute commitment, and that was one of the things that I made to myself. And one of the things that I like to tell people is that my healing journey to really get to the point where I was thriving was 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, it felt a lot better in 6 months, in
Yeah.
3 months. Every step forward I took was a big change in the delta. And I felt better and better and better and better. I just didn't realize how good it could be and
Yeah.
how great I could feel and that I could really create the life that I wanted. I just took it step by step. I live here in Colorado because I absolutely love to ski. I got 32 days in this year.
Wow.
And I had 10 powder days. I mean, it was just incredible.
Yeah.
But this is what I wanted. This is what was right for me. But it took me 10 years to
Yeah.
get here.
Yeah. And I think that's where so many people just give up before the miracle, before they get there. They don't want to put in that kind of time. And
Yeah.
it's, I go through the same things. I'm like, how could I possibly be in the best shape of my life at 54? Like,
Yeah.
well, it didn't just happen. I just,
Right.
it's consistency, it's doing all the things. It's not, like
Right.
you said, working with my heart doctor. How can I CrossFit? How can I do the things that I like to do without killing myself? Like,
Yeah.
you
Putting
just
myself
got to
at
be
risk.
willing to do the things, the
Yeah.
uncomfortableness and the discipline and the good days and the bad days and just whatever days, just
Yeah.
keep with the consistency. Like, that's truly the key to everything. And I think so many people they just give up before they get there, or they're not willing to do it, or it's inconvenient, or it's,
Or it's
whatever the
scary.
reasons are. It's the mental mindset that gives up
Right.
before the physical actually does.
Exactly. Exactly. And also along the way, I've found a lot of joy.
Yeah.
And it has been it's been exciting as much as it's been scary,
Yeah.
um, and uncomfortable.
To allow yourself to experience that, because you're
Yeah,
so conditioned otherwise.
yeah, and so it has been. It does have some good stuff that goes along with it. It's not all, the grind and the drudge and all of that.
Yeah.
But the key to it, I think, is the commitment and the drive and just not quitting on yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing, and I think this kind of bleeds into that self-worth conversation. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you are worthy of making a commitment to yourself. You really are. Everybody is.
Yeah. And you're worthy of joy, which I think
Yes.
there's so much of, especially, people with those core wounds, their childhood trauma, that,
Mhm.
like you were saying, when they start feeling happiness, they think there's something wrong, because they're like, do I deserve this? Is this okay?
Right,
Is it going to go away?
right.
They start getting in their mind instead of just enjoying and being and loving where they're at,
Yeah.
and just being okay with that and knowing they're worthy of that.
And I absolutely went through that too. I remember
Yeah.
a moment when I was, when I had some great victories at, at my CrossFit box, and my team, my community was, like, awesome, Ellen, you did great. Like we had a cash out with when we were doing kettlebell swings,
Mhm.
and I won. And it was, you just swing that kettlebell until you can, and whoever drops last wins. And I remember being so hesitant to take in those compliments and those accolades. I had earned that,
Yeah.
but my low self-worth didn't want me to take that in.
Yep.
And I had to go and take a long, hard look at that and say, you know what? I do deserve it. And I worked with a licensed EMDR specialist.
Mm.
And I think that's something, and I know in your realm, you're working with professionals, but I think a lot of people I don't understand that there are some predators out there.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always say is, please find a credentialed, licensed, you know, mental health professional to work with that you can trust, that you feel comfortable with. And if you feel like something's wrong, get out of there.
Absolutely, because you're in such a vulnerable place. It's like we talked about, like with
Yeah,
parents and kids, like you're in such a vulnerable, desperate place that you'll overlook red flags because they're quote unquote professionals, and you're paying them to
right,
be the professionals, and they're experts in a field that you're not. And so
right.
I could absolutely, I mean, obviously in my industry, it happens, unfortunately,
Yeah,
but absolutely, you've got to learn how to advocate for yourself. And that's where I think that intuition needs to come in,
it's
because your
so
brain's
important.
saying, no, no, you're paying them to be a professional. But then your heart's got to say, yeah, but this isn't right. I don't care who they are.
Yeah, something's not right. And I have walked away from a credentialed mental health professional, not because I thought they were unethical, just because I thought they weren't a good fit.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so
Well, and that's that whole other, advocate. Is that your kitty?
that's my dog. That's
Your
my
dog?
neighbor's dog.
It's
I'm dog
blurry, so I
sitting.
couldn't tell, but I knew it was a
Yeah,
four-legged something.
he's a German Shepherd Siberian Husky mix, and his dad next door is at work. So I sit here and work remotely all day. So I'm like, I got him.
Oh, I love that. What
So,
a what a beautiful combination.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's very, very sweet, and he's just laying on the bed there.
Is
My
he a
office.
talker? Because huskies they can be
I'm sorry.
talkers. Mine are talkies. Or is he a talker?
Um, he can be.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, sidetrack. Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
give me any animal and I instantly forget whatever was going on. Like, wait, what?
my
What were we talking
apologies.
about? No, all good. All good. But we were talking about licensed professionals, and you're right. One size does not fit all. And I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of people's struggles. And I know for sure, obviously, with rehab, is they think there's only one way, and therefore, and maybe they failed in that way, and so they've sort of given up, this isn't for me and it can't happen. But there's a million different ways to skin the cat, and we are so fortunate in
Yeah.
a society these days to have access to so many different types of help. Like
Yeah.
you talked about the tapping. There's
Mhm.
the acupuncture, there's acupressure, there's
Mhm.
somatic therapy, there's somatic healing, there's
Yeah.
plant medicine, there's so many different ways that people can meet you where you're at and what
Exactly.
feels right for you. You don't have to try to force something that's not going to be in your greatest interest. There's so many options out there, but a lot of times people just don't know where to look or who to talk
Mhm.
to or where they know, and then
Yeah.
they're left feeling like hopeless because they want help but don't feel like there's good help.
I agree with you 100%. And what I've encouraged people to do and what I did was I just looked at it as an experiment.
Mhm.
And if it's just an experiment, there's no success or fail. And you could just, well, you know what? I'm going to go and get an acupuncture session and just see what happens.
Mhm.
And if I feel better, you know what? I'm going to go do that again.
Yeah.
Or, because that's pretty benign. It's not terribly expensive, and to just try different things that work or that are what's the right word? Things that are, uh, mainstream accepted practices, things like acupuncture. Acupuncture's been around for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
there's a reason why it's been around for 5,000 years,
Right.
because it does work. Now, the other thing that I've learned too is that sometimes something will stop working, or it may not work originally because it wasn't the right time.
Yep.
So sometimes you can revisit things that may have not worked when you first tried it, and you might get a different result.
Absolutely.
That has really surprised me. I've also done some work with a Reiki master.
Mm.
Boy, did I have a powerful experience.
Oh.
Surprise, surprise, she found that my throat chakra was very suppressed. My voice was very suppressed. Of course, that
Mm-hmm.
makes perfect sense.
And what's
And
always amazing about these people is you don't tell them anything, and
I
they
know
figure that out just from their visuals scan, their energy scan. Like they figure it out on their own. You don't have to
they
tell them
do.
anything. I love not telling them anything and just
Yeah.
seeing if they're going to nail it. That's kind of my like little test.
Well, yeah, it is. It's a great test.
Yeah.
But the day after I had the experience with her, my neck swelled up and I looked like I had the mumps.
Oh, wow.
And now, because I work in clinical training, I have to have every vaccine that's out there because I'm in hospitals and operating rooms and things like that. And it's just a standard requirement. So I know I have the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, and it is up to date because I have to have that.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked like a football player. My neck was so swollen. And I sent her a text the next morning. I was like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. She's like, it's okay, Ellen. You're going to be fine. 72 hours, it'll be completely gone. And she was right.
Wow.
So that's a pretty substantial reaction to a Reiki experience.
Sure. Except when you realize how it's all connected, the body,
Yeah.
mind, and spirit, and how powerful our mind is. We can literally create, uncreate anything.
Mm-hmm. You
And
know,
then our bodies are like, oh, damn, we're doing that, huh? All right. Let me process that trauma. It's
exactly.
not going to be pretty, but here it
Let's
goes.
get this moving forward. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so interesting because I've really been exploring recently, like I mentioned before, Dr. Bradley Nelson's philosophy in the kinesiology testing. And that has taught me so much about the energy that we carry and energy flow, and about manifesting and creating our lives. The energy, I like to say, has to come first. And I'm going to be doing some more writing about this and my
Hmm.
experiences with it. And it's kind of like that's the base layer. First is the energy. Then there's thoughts. Then there's, and thoughts are energy also, and
Yeah.
vibration. And it's, I'm really kind of diving into this. I don't understand it. Um, but it's something that I'm learning about, and it's been quite interesting to dive into it.
Oh yeah, I've dabbled a lot in the last couple of years in the whole quantum because
Yeah,
it's spirituality explained by science more or less,
exactly.
and it's just fascinating to
Mhm.
me when you start to realize how connected it is, and it's not segmented and it's not separate. It is all connected, and so how do you learn how to utilize that for your
Yeah,
greatest? And I've worked with different people, same like I'll hold a crystal and it'll be the same sort of thing, and it's amazing to watch your body like react to something uh just off of a word or something else that it was totally fine with all these 15 other things prior. It's
right.
like shows you how smart and connected our bodies, minds, and spirits are with that
Yeah,
energy. It's fascinating. Like you said, I mean, I don't think I could ever in my lifetime understand all of it completely, but it is so cool to learn and start seeing it in real
yeah,
life.
yeah. And learning to kind of play with it, and just again as an experiment, with the interest of understanding it. And like, a romantic partner, can I send them love energy and see if
Mm.
I get a response back?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's kind of like that, when somebody's staring at you
Hmm.
and you're not even conscious, and you turn your head and look. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a reference that everybody can kind of understand. um But yeah, it's interesting, and it all comes down to that quantum physics, and I think your explanation of that is really just on the money. And we're just beginning to understand it. I'm
Mhm.
just experimenting with it and trying to learn from those experiments.
Yeah, which is so cool because that's what's like I tell my team, that's the magic, that's the synchronicity. That's when you see it working your lives. And I
Yeah.
know partly they're like, you're kind of crazy. But then I think they're like, oh, but you kind of keep nailing it. So maybe there's some validity here.
Right,
But for a
right.
lot of people, it's like seeing is believing, or there has to be like some
Mhm.
physical confirmation of something for them to believe it or see it. And a lot of times that isn't there. And like with you, sometimes it comes through in intuition, sometimes it
Yeah.
comes through with, I just had that thought about that person and then they called me. It's like, ooh, did I create that? Or did I know
Mhm.
they were going to call? Like,
Right.
that's cool to like start like playing with, like you said, and toying with.
It is. And always appropriate and with love and appreciation.
Oh yeah.
I think doing it the other way around really gets you in trouble real quick.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm a firm
Yeah,
believer, like we are all mirrors, and I'm not going to do something to somebody because I know
exactly.
that's just going to come back on me. So
Exactly.
I lead with light and love and
Yeah.
trust that,
Yeah.
their karma will do whatever, but it's not going to come at my hands. No how, no
Right.
way.
Yeah. And one of the things I've learned too is that being able to let go of the anger, and
Mm,
because that's a negative energy.
yep.
And like, to your point, it's negativity is going to just breed negativity, or it's going to mirror back to you. And I've been thinking about how to explain kind of being in that thriving place, because again, I am doing some more writing. And where I've gotten to right now with this idea is that I now can stand in my truth at this present moment. Now, in 2 seconds, it's going to be another present moment. So there's always this constant unfolding. But I stand in my truth in this moment, and I am clear on my boundaries. I
And
will
that's
not.
hard.
Yeah,
And that's hard. I mean,
yeah.
it's not hard, but it's learned. It's for me, it has not been natural. But go
It's
ahead. Sorry.
yeah. For me, same thing.
Yeah.
I'm clear on my boundaries. They are
Mm,
not negotiable, and I
mhm.
have no need to apologize for them. And I mean zero need. If somebody is standing in their truth, holding their boundaries, but still feels a little guilty about that, there's still more work to do.
Yeah.
And I
Mm,
feel like I've reached that point. And there's no anger towards those people who don't accept those boundaries. They're just no longer in my life.
yeah.
And I cut them out of my life. I just don't accept that. But I'm not angry. I just don't care
Yep.
because it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And for me to thrive and live my purpose and talk with people like you, and you and I are putting this message out there and really helping people, I can't do that if I let my boundaries be violated.
Mm,
I can't. I can't reach my full potential and serve to my potential.
yeah.
And I've
How do you
just
know
reached this
what
point.
your boundaries are? Like, how would one go about saying that's a boundary that I'm
Sure.
unwilling to have crossed?
It's about, for me, it's about abuse, and to being taken advantage of.
Okay.
It's respect. Not, I'm not going to be gaslighted. I'm not going to be manipulated. I'm not going to be controlled. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be your therapist. I
Mm-hmm.
had a woman who I was actually friends with, who I've actually had to end the relationship with. She was probably the most traumatized woman I've ever met in my life. And she read my book, she read, seen all the work I've done, and she wanted all of that. And that's fine, but I can't give that to you. That's something you have to go do. And she latched on to me and tried to make me into her therapist, and just would talk and talk and talk. And I'm like, no. First of all, I'm not a therapist. Second of all, that's not fair to me.
Yeah.
That's your stuff. You have
Yeah.
to go deal with that. I can't help you. I can be a supportive friend, but you've gone way too far.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
unfortunate. And I don't, I don't like that, but I don't feel guilty that it's not my responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and you got to protect your energy. And a lot of times
Exactly.
people will mistake kindness for like, oh, good. And they'll take full
Exactly.
advantage of it because you were
Right.
kind or you had a nice word. And then
Right.
obviously the longer you've been friends, for me, I feel more committed and, this is how it is. And then, like you said, you got to reach a point where you're like, is this feeding my soul? It's like all this constructive advice and time and energy that I'm
Right.
giving, even helping this person, or are they just taking advantage of the fact that I will sit and listen and let them
That's it
bleed
exactly.
out all their stuff? Yeah.
And actually it got to the point where this woman had an anxiety. We were in a ski house together. She had an anxiety attack in the middle of the night, thought she was having a heart attack, and we had to call 911. So this got pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, the other thing I learned too is that people who often, this is probably isn't always the case, and again, I'm not a licensed therapist, people who have some pretty extreme trauma end up spending a lot of time trying to control everyone around them.
Mm-hmm.
And this person was always trying to control me, and my time and where I was going and who I was spending with on the weekends. And I was like, oh, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot going on there. And I just had to say, you know what, this just needs to stop right here. This is not
Yeah.
healthy for me. Yeah.
Well, and in doing so, you probably did the best thing for her
Mm-hmm.
because hopefully it will inspire her or force or push her to go get the actual help she needs, as opposed to just using you and your energy to
Exactly.
vent or whatever it is without actually doing anything to fix the problem.
Sure, sure. And this person is a very kind person. I don't want to, give the impression that she's a bad person, not at all, but it's just somebody who is severely traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the older we get, and especially, the more we do the work on ourselves, the more we help others do the work. It's become for me, like you were talking about a boundary thing where I can pretty easily identify where someone's sort of setting me up to either be their villain or be their therapist or be that
Right.
person that talks them down because there's always a situation. And I now, and this is stuff that has to be learned through trial and error. But
Right,
I
right,
like you, I finally gotten to a place where I'm like, I can see exactly where we're heading. I'm going to nip it in the bud. This is
right,
not my monkey. I'm not bringing it on. I don't have the capacity or energy for this. And
right,
again, you got to kind of advocate for yourself because if you don't, you would allow this stuff in, it starts to control your life. And now
right,
you're not just dealing with your shit, you're dealing with everybody else's, which makes
right.
handling your own stuff a lot more confusing because of, their energies and your energies and, all the things.
It's not ours.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not ours. It's not for us to deal with.
Yeah. And we're not here to fix everybody. Like, I can't
Exactly.
fix you. Even though I'm in the field to help, this is what I love to do more than anything. I
Yep.
can't fix you.
Right. Right. Each person has to do their own work. And it,
Mm,
even if you could fix somebody, you wouldn't know how to because it's their journey, not ours.
yeah. 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 Well, and I think that's where like a DBT and them like deep diving into their own stuff without someone else's opinions or thoughts, just
Hmm.
thoughtful setting up of, and also motivational interviewing is very good at this,
Oh,
is
yeah.
sort of setting them up to have the realizations and cognitions about their own life themselves without your influence whatsoever.
Yeah.
Gestalt's kind of like that. Like we can lead you there, but you've got to do the work and you've got to come to your own personal realizations.
And that's what I love about coaching,
Yeah.
because in coaching, we talk so much about the client has the answers.
Yeah.
The client it's a mantra in the coaching,
Absolutely.
at least my coach training. And the answers have to be from them. Even though I may think I have an idea of what the answer is, it's even if I had an opinion, I wouldn't say it.
Right. Right. Because they'll just
It's
hinge on that and it's not true for them, but they're gonna, and then it doesn't work and then you're gonna be the bad guy. Like,
right.
oh yeah, there's a whole
That
pattern that
that's
goes
a
with that.
that's a spiral. It's easy to go down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
living, giving
Go
them
ahead.
the space,
Mm,
and the time to think about it and come up with their answers. And having been coached, I get that. I get
mhm.
that. That really is very important. So
And that's probably the most important thing in order to coach somebody else is, have you done the work? Do you keep doing the work? Do you work with others? And do you
Right.
believe in it? And then that's why
Yeah.
you do what you do.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I worked with a coach who's actually a retired FBI agent.
Mm.
And I did some self-defense training with him as well. And he likes to say, you got to eat your own dog food.
Yep. 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
well, and that's so funny because I different term, but like, we'll have people, like I had the, Savant up filming and he's like, oh my God, you actually like lead from the front. You're like
Mhm.
actually in here working out with the clients, with the staff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I be? Of course I would. I'm asking them to do it. Why wouldn't I do it?
Right.
He's like, no, you wouldn't believe how many people are quote unquote leaders in this world,
Yep.
but they don't practice what they preach. They're
Yep.
hypocrites. They're saying do this, but they don't do it themselves, or they
Yeah.
try to incite work that they've not done. And it was
Yeah.
an odd concept to me because I'm thinking, well, how do you do that? But I
Right.
think this is where education can, like, you can get all the peripheral knowledge, but you don't
Right.
have the actual like experience to back it up. So you can regurgitate the words, but you don't have the reality of does
Mhm.
that work and how does it work? And the confidence that it does work because it worked for me.
And because you've had the experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I call that authentic leadership. And there's
Yeah.
so much of that is going on right now that, yeah, where it's just completely hypocritical.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a side effect of the pandemic, where all of a sudden everybody was an online coach, an online professional, an online,
Right.
groups and courses, and like everybody was suddenly an expert. And I get it; everyone's trying to hustle, make a living. What do I do? How can I do it?
Right.
I think there was a lot of disingenuous people that started creating a lot of fraud based off of false advertisements and all the other things, and they
Yeah.
took a lot of advantage of a lot of people who were truly trying to get help and wanting
Yeah.
help.
And that's why one of the reasons on almost every podcast that I do, like we're doing today, is always try and warn people to be really to scrutinize. Ask
Yeah.
somebody their credentials, Google them, find out what you can find out. Um, don't necessarily listen. They may not be who they say they are.
Right, right. Do some
So
research, do some due diligence.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, most people who date do a deep dive on people's social media.
Mm,
I know I do. I
yeah.
know guys who I've dated, they're like, oh yeah, I saw that about you. Oh, wow. I'm like, okay, you're doing a deep dive, I can tell. And that's fine.
Yeah,
I think it's important. Um, but we have to do the same thing with coaches and mental health professionals as well.
absolutely. Yeah. And this is in no way a deterrent from people getting help or
Oh
seeking
gosh,
out
no,
coaches.
no.
It's just saying, hey, there's as many good people as there are, there's that many
Yes.
ill-intentioned bad people. So just, before you put
Yep.
your life in someone else's hands, make sure you do the work to know that
Yeah.
this is a good fit, and you're getting good advice. Talk to referrals, talk to
Yeah.
people, past people they've helped, like do your due diligence.
And it's really that simple. Again, I agree with you 100%. Don't want to scare anybody.
Yeah.
It's about doing your due diligence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trusting that gut.
Oh, which is hard if you have all kinds of other people's
I
stuff
know.
in your universe. That's why
I
you've got
know.
to get real quiet and real intentional
Yeah.
so that you can hear and listen to your gut and your intuition.
Yeah. I think probably the most important thing that I have learned from all of this is a consistent breath practice.
Ah, yep.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be long,
No.
but if I get to it several times during the day, but usually it's like 5-minute increments.
Yeah.
And I start my first breath practice when I'm waking up. And that it takes about 30 days for that to make an impact for
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
But I've been doing it now, oh gosh, at least 5-7 years. And that's
Wow.
been a huge help.
I love
Yeah.
that. And again, it's the power of the breath. You don't need a coach. You don't need a
Right.
special subscription. You don't need
Yeah.
any of those things. It's all within us. It's
Yeah.
just learning to utilize how powerful our breath is. Yeah, I've been big in breath work, especially the last few years, because I've struggled with mindfulness just sitting there. But I find when I can
Everybody
engage
does.
my body and get the
Yeah.
air or the lack
Yeah.
of air and do the holds or whatever it is, all of a sudden that creates that magic for me that I was sort of searching for a long time. I am a huge fan of breath work. Yeah.
Yes. And there's free apps out there.
Oh yeah.
I use Insight Timer, which I actually love. And then I have Mark Divine's Unbeatable Mind box breathing app.
Mm.
But
There's
what I've
also a
learned,
million free ones on YouTube. Like I'll just type
exactly.
and I love DMT psychedelic breathing because I really love those long breath holds because we talked
Yeah.
about we got to challenge ourselves. So
Right,
I
right.
love to work up to like a good 3-minute breath hold, but
Oh my
yeah,
God.
it's all there. It's free.
Yeah,
I know it's crazy.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes I'm like, there's just no way. And it's always
yeah,
different every day. Like
yeah.
and that's the cool part too. It's like completely unpredictable. It's not rote. It's not the same thing. You're so much available out there for free that people can truly help themselves.
Yeah, and it makes such a difference. One of the things, like we were talking about intuition and how it can be really hard to hear that when you've got all these layers of trauma and struggles on top of that. But what I found, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, is when we're doing the breath work, sometimes in the midst of that breath work or shortly thereafter, that's when a lot of insights will start to come up
Mhm.
because we've taken a few minutes just to calm down our parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
And just by calming that down, I think it enables or opens up a space for those insights to come up and for us to hear that intuition. And I think that's kind of the beginning of that process, or at least that's been my experience.
Absolutely. We're handling that fight, flight, or freeze with utilizing our breath and calming our neck. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's interesting because like if I'm doing it during the week, the things that come to me are all work related. When I do it on the weekends, then it's more personal related. So, you can
Right.
even toy with it of like, what is it that, I need and want to get out of this depending on the day for me. I had a gentleman on earlier where we were talking about sometimes that's going into nature and it's just taking
Yes.
some deep breaths in nature without the noise, without the phones, without the life,
Mhm.
without, the comfort of our home and just finding that same sort of peace and mindfulness in nature as well, which is another great kind of, mindfulness and meditation and things.
I think, yeah, it's almost in its own category. And that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons I live here in Colorado.
Yes. And why I live here in Santa Cruz.
And you live in
Everyone's like,
California.
Texas
Exactly.
and this and that. And I'm like, but do you see where I live? Like, it's
Exactly.
amazing.
Yeah. It just being there's, when you live in this type of environment, and I've had people ask me, well, why don't you live in Denver? I'm like, I don't want to live in Denver. I'm good. In Boulder County, we've got lots of open space. And I'm 18 minutes to the Flatiron hiking trails, which is beautiful kind of foothills. And so in the wintertime, and then again in the summertime, there's so much opportunity to just step outside and just be.
Yeah.
And that's where we're meant to be. We're not meant to be in an office with shoes on, just,
In a car,
yeah,
in crowded buildings, in yeah, all those things.
shopping malls. Yeah, not that anybody goes
Yeah,
to anymore, but yeah, no,
yeah.
I
I
totally
think those are
agree.
going by the wayside, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Which is so weird because that's like what I did, in my early teenage years. We always went and hung out at malls. Like it was
Oh, I know.
such a huge part of my life. And now I don't want to go to a mall for anything in my body.
Yeah, it's like, wait, oh, I have to go to the mall. Oh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Oh yes, we come from the same generation.
We do. All
Yeah.
right. So let me ask you one last question before we end off.
Sure.
The name of my show is called Going Rogue with Angie Manson because I like to think I'm an individual who sort of doesn't do the norm, but have found
Yeah.
success in doing so. What
Yeah.
is your biggest going rogue, either moment or philosophy? Because I know based off our conversation, we share in a lot of the same beliefs there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. My biggest moment, or what was it? Biggest moment?
Or philosophy, like the thing you follow regularly to be going rogue.
You know, I actually I could answer both of those if you think we have enough time.
Absolutely.
So the first one I would say is just, I refuse to quit on myself. I absolutely refuse. And every time I refuse to quit on myself, I beat the teachers, the naysayers who said I wasn't good enough, who said I couldn't get a bachelor's degree, who said I couldn't get a master's degree, and never even imagined me writing a book.
Wow.
And then the other thing, I
Yep.
had a really amazing moment with my publisher when I finally got my first copy of the book. When it first, so Amazon sends you like a final version.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. And they send one to you and one to your publisher, and then you get kind of this final look over to just make sure like pages are numbered right and things like that. And I was holding it in my hands, and I couldn't believe I was holding it in my hands. And I was in shock for about 2 weeks. And Jess, my publisher, she kept asking me, how are you doing? What are you feeling? What's going on? Because when you publish a personal memoir, it's very scary.
Yeah.
And for a long time, it took me 2 weeks to process this. And I realized I was sitting there and I was holding in my hands over 200 pages of me beating the education system that tried to write me off. And I sent Jess a 2-word email. I won.
Oh, I
I,
love that.
and being diagnosed at age 6, and when this was just coming out was 2 years ago, so it was about 47 years. So I fought for 47 years for my self-esteem and self-worth.
Yeah. And you won.
I won.
Ah,
So,
that's such a beautiful story. And those are the stories of inspiration and hope that people need to hear, who have similar experiences or been told similar things, or who thought they were completely unable to do any of these things because of that. That is not true. You are living proof that you can
yeah,
absolutely overcome anything. It
you
won't
can,
just happen. You got to do the work, and you got to
yeah,
keep doing the work, but
right.
you can absolutely overcome any kind of adversity that is holding you back or once held you back.
Yeah, I
Oh,
agree 1000%.
oh. Well,
So
thank you so much for coming on our show today. I really have
thank you.
appreciated this conversation.
Oh, I did too. Thank you so much. What a great fit.
Yes, absolutely. Twins. Can you please tell our listeners where they can find you, your book, all the things that you're doing,
Sure.
help, reach out to you, all the things?
Sure. My webpage is ellenbusch.com, so nice and simple. Just don't forget the C. It's BUSCH, like the beer, not the
Uh,
president. Family joke.
there you go. Okay.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, ebush1500. Um, yeah, so I'm pretty easy to find. Reach out to me. I'm just in the process of revamping my webpage and kind of clarifying some coaching options if people are looking for coaching. Um, I do general life coaching. I'm also branching into some dating coaching.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the dating apps are quite a mess. And also everybody is too isolated. So how
Yeah.
do you get back out there and build a community for yourself? And that's something I've done, so I can help you with that as well.
I love that. As you're saying that, I'm thinking of the whole like swipe right or left. I don't know what it is, generation where you don't even get a chance or an opportunity to get to know somebody. It's literally just based off a picture, which may or may
Exactly.
not even be like them. And
Exactly.
that really can limit someone's options if that's the world that they're living in a
Yeah.
dating app kind of thing.
The numbers, the statistics I'm hearing are just staggering. I'm hearing that one study where a man had to swipe 1 million times, believe it or not, just to get one coffee date. And
Oh,
that's just not acceptable. There are, you can create social communities, even if you're an introvert. I can help with that.
ah,
You can
very
create
nice.
social circles and branch out, and there are ways to get out there and meet people. And those are always the better way to meet a romantic partner. Meet them in person. I mean, the apps are the apps.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
So,
I love that. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming out. Hopefully you can get out there. Hopefully we both get some sunshine. Like I haven't looked
I
out the window
know,
since
I
we started,
know.
but hopefully we both get some sunshine so I can go walk on my beach and you could go walk on your forest. And I mean, I'll
Exactly.
do it
Hopefully
regardless if the sun
tomorrow.
is out,
Yeah,
because sometimes it's fun even when it's not. But
right.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, let's here's to lifting heavy weights.
Oh yeah.
All right, one last question. What's your favorite lift?
My favorite WOD is Grace.
Which is
Favorite lift is Snatch.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
it's my least favorite.
I like
It's
it
my
because it's technically challenging, but I
very
like,
technically challenging, and it's the one I can lift the least amount on. That's why I hate it.
Because it's so technical.
It is 100% technicalness. I myself enjoy power clean. That's my favorite lift.
I can understand why. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fun.
yeah, I do love a good power clean, but
Absolutely.
always nice to talk to a fellow lifter as well, a fellow
Absolutely.
female lifter. It's pretty awesome.
Especially over 50.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're here to break that mold. So this,
Absolutely.
you could be fittest at 50. Like it doesn't have to be a thing anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much. It's been fun. Great.
All right. Thanks, Ellen.
Namaste. Bye.